I went to the number 6 BYU Cougars versus Kansas upset. And first off, huge shout out to my boss, Braiden at Odion Menswear. Go check him out, description down below. He brought me along to check out the environment of BYU football this season. And this game was really a tale of two teams that have been completely opposite this season in the Big 12. First off, of course, we've got the number 6 ranked Cougars. Going into the week, they've been undefeated, had a huge win the week ago against the Utah Utes in the big rivalry. Controversial maybe, depending on who you ask. Obviously, Utah wasn't very happy with it, but a close, miraculous win for the Cougars a week ago. And now they come into Kansas at home at night, which is usually where the BYU Cougars thrive, is at home at night. But the other side of this tape is the Kansas Jayhawks, who have been a very disappointing season so far. I mean, the Kansas Jayhawks were supposed to be near the top of the Big 12, while BYU was supposed to be at the bottom of the Big 12, if you care about the projections by the so-called experts. BYU is super overachieving this season, while the Jayhawks are greatly underachieving. Jalen Daniels, a great quarterback in this league, and he got underrated. He got disrespected a lot of this season because they weren't pulling out victories. So this game brings everything together. Number 6 BYU, I can't stress that enough, against a 3-6 team, or 3-7, or whatever it was, in the Kansas Jayhawks. They did just start winning football games more recently. They won 2 out of their last 3. Finally, the Jayhawks were getting back on their feet. The offense started moving the football. And a lot of the Kansas Jayhawks losses, I want to say they lost 6 games by a total of 15 points. Are you kidding me? 6 games, you lost by a total of 15. So they lost very close matches. And BYU, on the other side, won a lot of the one-score games. A lot of their wins are one-score games. So that's just how it's been. It was quote-unquote the luckiest team in CFB in BYU versus the unluckiest team in the Kansas Jayhawks. And one thing my boss Braiden said as he was there at the game with me, he said, man, this might be one of those law of averages games where the team who had lost all the close games finally gets a win against the team that had won all the close games. Because you can't count on winning on the close games every single time, right? And that's exactly what happened. Everybody was excited. Their BYU Cougars have not been this good. They've not been 6th ranked in a very, very long time. And they have not been this close, what seemed like this close, to an undefeated season. They thought their toughest test was against Utah, and that was over. I know a lot of Cougar fans were still nervous about this Kansas game, and especially next week, especially now, against the Arizona State Sun Devils in Tempe, Arizona. That's going to be a tough one, but the feelings were there. Everybody was excited. They're nervous. They don't want to lose that undefeated season. Nobody does, but they strung together a lot of energy that game. A lot of energy. I don't know if it's like that every day. I don't know if it's like it just because they're undefeated right now. But the feelings were impeccable. The vibes were amazing. Energy was going right off rip. You can see on this opening kickoff, man, that the BYU fans were already into it. They held the returning kickoff to the 15-yard line, and everybody lost it, man. It was so exciting. Every third down, it was absolutely deafening in there. The place was rocking. And on offense, it was dead quiet, man. That's exactly how you want it. This is one of the best college football experiences I think there is out there. I've heard many, many coaches, including Kansas's own, at the end of the game saying this is one of the most difficult places to play, at least in the Big 12, if not the entire country. And so it was amazing that Kansas could walk in there with all the frustrations they've had. They were able to play loose and free, which is very opposite to BYU, right, who was a little tense. They tried to play a ground control game, which I don't really think is Kalani Sitake type offense. He likes to go for it. All right? I know it's just not a BYU feel. They like throwing the ball downfield, and again, throughout this game, there was a couple opportunities that Jake Retzloff, quarterback, just missed throws. It was rough. BYU just could not finish in the red zone. That was the biggest problem. You start the second half. Well, first off, the big interception. As BYU was marching in the first half, was going to get a field goal to at least take the lead. It was 10-10 at this point, right? Could have got a field goal to make it at least 13-10 going into halftime. Could have got a touchdown, but instead, they threw that same fade route that they did against Utah Utes, and it... for the failed 2-point conversion last week. This week it was also an interception. And so that just was absolutely drive killer. Halftime, we go in. It's 10-10. Everybody's even more on edge now because, man, this should not be a 10-10 ball game. BYU should be winning. I mean, when Kansas came out and scored on their opening possession, you expect BYU to respond really quickly, and that just wasn't the case. They weren't able to score a touchdown until late in the second quarter. And then got the ball back again. And then, of course, had the interception. Couldn't do much there. Kansas nailed it. And then we go to the halftime, 10-10. At the start of halftime, BYU takes a 10-minute drive to start the second half. And failed to put the ball in the end zone. Had to settle for 3. BYU's defense got to make a stop, right? And they get the stop on third down. Fourth down, what happens? Jalen Daniels, the quarterback, punts it himself. And I don't know if you can see it, but right here, it bounces right off the BYU cornerback's head. Another Cougar, Robinson, tries to jump on the loose football, can't corral it, and it ends up Kansas ball at like the 5-yard line. And of course, Kansas was then able to punch the football in, making it 17-13, and then BYU just could never respond. Could never get the football in the end zone. They got in field goal range. Here on 4th and 12, or 4th and 5. They got it down to 4th and 5. And of course, oh my gosh, this still hurts to watch. This false start by the center, or the snap infraction, whatever you want to call it, absolutely costly. BYU, if you ask the offensive coordinator, if you ask quarterback Jake Retzloff, if you ask Kalani Sitake, they all said that this play was a touchdown. Jake Retzloff even said he might have been too excited, maybe messed up the cadence because he saw a touchdown. And unfortunately on the next play here, 4th and 12, they just were not able to get enough yardage. They got stopped just short, and Kansas was able to kneel the football out and come away with a road upset victory against the number 6 team in the nation. What a fun game it was, though, honestly. Like, obviously, it would have been a lot more fun for me as I'm here rocking my Cougar hat that I just found this week. All right, I'm not a BYU fan per se, though I might have been convinced. I might have converted. I'm not going to lie to you. I might have converted because of this game, because the atmosphere was so fun. The fans were so passionate. Everybody was into it. It was such a fun game, a fun atmosphere, a fun place to be. And I'm sure it was very difficult for Kansas to get their offense going. There was so many times Jalen Daniels is like this, covering the ear hole so maybe he could hear. You know, they had to call a timeout once because of it. Like, it was insane. The Cougar fans are top tier. The Rock was rocking. Everything was awesome. What a great football game, except the outcome. Obviously, I was going for the Cougars. I want to see the Utah boys get something done and make some noise in the college football playoffs. And they still control their own destiny. Don't get me wrong. If they win out, if they just beat Arizona State, they're pretty much locked into the Big 12 Conference Championship against Colorado looking like right now. That's going to be a fun one. If they can beat Colorado and get into the CFB playoffs, anything can happen. Maybe they end up a top 4 seed. Maybe they don't. That's another day's conversation. But man, oh man. It was a fun place to be. If the offense, I really wish I was there on one of them, like the Kansas State game, where the offense was clicking on all cylinders. Like, The special teams was scoring. That place must have been loud. And I just wasn't. Either way, a 17-14 or 17-13 ball game was still a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you still have faith in the Cougars. I still think they can make the college football playoffs. Keep your eye on them. They're getting disrespected in the rankings a little bit. They should be on par with Miami. That's all I'm going to say. They should be on par with Miami. If Miami's lower than Boise State, fine. But then if BYU's lower than Boise and Miami's not, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's all about branding then. Come on now. Get it right, committee. Get it right. College football is way fun. Anything can happen in the next couple weeks. College football 12-man playoffs is so fun. Let me know how you think the Cougars are going to do against Arizona State. And I appreciate y'all for watching. Thank you.
Pick.